Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. We are on the set of a video podcast that we've recently just filmed, and I thought I would show you the setup, but this is a behind the scenes look at what goes into a pretty typical 3-camera video podcast setup. The first thing you'll notice is that we're in a big white studio. We're shooting into the corner of the studio, and we obviously have a white table here. So the result of the final image is a nice stark sort of background. It's nice and clean, and then we gave it a nice cinematic color grade to create some mood. Now we're filmmakers, so that was the mood we were going for. But one thing you want to consider when you're filming a video podcast is what is the environment saying about you, and is it representing the topics that you're covering in your video podcast? So as we're sitting here, Tim and I are obviously having a conversation across from each other, but the main consideration is how are you going to light two people at the same time? You could take a couple of approaches, but we just went for an Aputure lantern. A lantern is essentially an orb light which lights 360 degrees. And so it's going to light my face quite nicely. It's also going to light Tim in an even way, but also it's lighting the environment around us. So it's a single light that's lighting the table. It's a nice light on us as subjects, and it's enough ambient light for the entirety of the set. The most important thing if you're trying to create good mood and cinema with your lighting is to put the light away from the camera, so the camera is filming into the shadow side. So it's darker on this side, which is where the cameras are, and the light is further away. What this does is just create nice contrast on the face, and it's just more appealing and more cinematic or more moody when you're shooting into the shadow side of the face. So one Aputure lantern above. The other thing we've done is we put this drop cloth around the lantern, and what this is doing is stopping the lantern from spilling out too much onto the background. So we're controlling the light from the background, so the background can stay at a lower ratio than our faces and where the actual table is lit. And you can adjust this as you go. So essentially it's controlling the light to drop down and to shine forward, left and right on Tim and I. The only other two lights that we've added are these Aputure strip boxes, and these have a grid on it. And essentially all it is doing is giving a nice down light. And once we were all in position, we would obviously move these. But the point of these is just to give an edge light on the hair and the shoulders and the back of the chair. And that just gives some separation from us, the subject, and the background. And that's it for lighting. So just 3 lights. They are all using an Aputure 300D Mark II. Yeah, all 3 lights are there. Don't be confused by some other lights that you might see in the background. Initially, we were playing with some other lights just to give some shape and direction to the wall, which you can see here. But we actually opted to turn them off completely and just keep a nice even light on these back walls. So yeah, 3 lights. A hair light or an edge light for both talent. We've got another Aputure light box here. This one is on the back of Tim. And then 1 key light. This is a great little setup. We've obviously had to boom this light over the table. So we've used a Kupo combo stand. That just has a boom arm, and we extended that all the way back here. As you can see by the frames, it's given a very clean look. And I think the main thing with a podcast setup is that you just want a repeatable solution. It might look complicated, but the theory of what's going on here is relatively simple. Just 3 lights. And the great thing about this setup is it's 1 lantern primarily, so you could actually take this anywhere you want, to any location, and have 2 people having a conversation in front of each other and just place the lantern on the opposite side of the camera, and you get a really nice soft key light that's got some good cinematic contrast. Now with audio, obviously you want some high quality audio for a podcast. And so this is now using this microphone here, the Shure SM7B, and this is recording into the sound bag, which I'll chat about in a second. Tim, on the other hand, is using a PodMic by Rode. There's actually nothing wrong with the PodMic. I just happen to have a Shure SM7B for a bunch of other stuff I do. And so this is the sound coming out of the SM7B. And this is the sound coming from a lavalier that's on my person. So you can hear with the lavalier, there's a lot of echo in this space. But when you go into a PodMic or a Shure SM7B, you can just hear the richness develop, and it isolates the background a lot more.
If I was to do the journey again, I think there'd be definitely things that I would do differently. And we might be able to chat about some of those a bit later. And
you always see the glass half full, and I think I always see it half empty.
And that's why we make it, because you've drank the first half.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if we're talking about lessons learnt, one lesson learnt definitely is as the business grows.
In terms of recording this, it is simply just going into a Zoom F8 in the sound bag. This is an F8N Pro, but you could use any XLR recorder. The key with a SM7B specifically is to use something like a cloud lifter, which is an inline mic preamp booster. It gives clean gain to the signal. So you power this via 48 volts from the bag. And what this is essentially doing is it's taking the signal from the mic, going into this box. This box is lifting the level of the signal, and then that is recording into the recorder. The purpose of this is just to get the microphone level high enough so that you're not driving the preamps in the recorder too high. You don't have to use it. We're actually not using anything on the PodMic going into the F8N Pro because the preamps are clean enough. But if I had two of them, I would definitely put one in line with the PodMic as well. This bag is just a bag that we use all the time for our other video production work. So don't be put off by all of this. It's simply a microphone, an XLR cable, a cloud lifter straight into a recorder. You could use an audio interface for a computer. You could also use any form of XLR recorder, and that would do the trick. We obviously just sync that audio up with the cameras later in post. Finally, let's have a look at the camera setup. So because it's a two-person setup, we want to shoot over the shoulder of one person and then over the shoulder of the other person. And the two side cameras are the primary cameras that are capturing Tim and I. But we liked to give a little bit of context to both of those frames. Obviously, the wide shot gives the most context because you can see the conversation happening. But what's great about these side angles is that you're shooting over the shoulder of one person and you can see their reaction and their movement as that conversation is taking place. So no matter what angle you cut to, you're still seeing the context of the conversation taking place. For cameras, we're using two Ursa G2 4.6K cameras. This camera has a DxO 20-55 and we filmed at 50 millimeters. The other camera that we used, the G2, only had a Canon 50mm, just this old Canon EF L series lens, which is a photography lens. But we basically matched both of these to 50mm. So the focal length was the same. I did need to tweak these two lenses in the color grade to make them match perfectly, but these were great. This was the wide angle. I don't have the camera here, but this was a Pocket 6K with a 12mm wide angle lens. So we're actually quite far back from the set, and it was just this huge wide angle capturing everything in the frame. So 3 cameras, 3 lights, 2 microphones, 1 table, and we have a video podcast. The other thing I will mention is these black blankets are just really great to throw on the floor. They just help reduce any noise of the chairs rolling around, and it takes a little bit of echo out. It's pretty hard, to be honest, to treat a big white space like this for sound. That's why the podcasting mics are so important. Nice proximity effect, getting your mouth as close to that mic as possible. Just so you have context, this is what the other microphone sounds like. And remember, this is the lavalier mic picking up the room. the lav that's just on my person. But this microphone here, you can hear how much richer it is, and the proximity effect, which is just the distance between my mouth and the mic, allows the sound to be rich, and it also removes a lot of the background noise from the studio. So I hope that was helpful, just to give you an insight into what went into our video podcast. Your video podcast does not have to be this complicated. At the core, it's simply getting your phone out and filming the conversation that you're having. If you only have one camera and you're already doing a podcast, and perhaps you want to expand into a video podcast, I would simply just get my phone, put it on a little stand, and shoot a single angle, a wide shot of both of the people talking. That would be the first step in. So I would start there, and then if you want to expand from there, then you can expand into the 3 camera and get a nice tight shot of both of your talent talking. If you do have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. I'll get back to you on there. For now, peace out, and we will see you in the next one.